Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear. Thanks for clicking on the thumbnail. You know, I created this channel for two reasons. And the first is I wanted it to be a charitable endeavor, which would mean that when this channel gets monetized by YouTube, we can give all that money to local libraries and literacy programs. That was number one. Number two is I just love to read books, and I like to talk to people about books, and I like to recommend good books to people that are like me and that want to read good books. We are in the fantasy genre today, and I'm talking about Assassin's Quest, which is the third novel in the Farseer Trilogy written by Robin Hobb. And it's an exceptional novel, to tell you the truth. And I also want to point out is it's a library novel. So, you know, when you go to the library, you're doing a couple things. You're saving yourself, in this case, probably about $40. But also, every time you check out a book at a library, you increase their circulation numbers. And what that means is they're more likely to get funding from their local governmental entities when they have high circulation and turnover. And if you don't think I know what I'm talking about, I do, because I was a lawyer and I represented our local public library for over 20 years. It's exactly how it works. So, on occasion, go check out a book from the library. Okay, let's go ahead and return to The Assassin's Quest. Published on March 3rd, 1997, Assassin's Quest is the third and final novel of the Farseer Trilogy. And it essentially begins with Fitz, our main character, being completely and utterly dead. Except that through the help of his friends, his soul has been transferred into a beast for safekeeping, while his body lies rotting in the earth. And of course, because Robin Hobb has a third novel to write and to finish this trilogy, Fitz is going to reanimate his own body. And thus begins the Assassin's Quest, which begs the question of where were we left off? Well, it's pretty simple. The raiders and the red ships are still raiding and just wreaking havoc on the coast. Prince Regal, who has basically usurped the throne, is still being a rat bastard, and he's running the whole kingdom into the ground. And the true heir to the throne, Prince Verity, has gone over the mountains to seek the help of the Eldermanes, and he's gone. He's disappeared. However, through means of the magical ability, the telepathic ability to communicate and feel the presence of another soul clear across the other side of the world, we call this the skill, or I should say Hobb calls this the skill, we know that Prince Verity is alive. And it becomes pretty obvious that the solution to all the problems here is to find Prince Verity. And that is the underlying theme of this novel. It is the plot of this novel. It is a quest novel. And along the way on this quest, Hobb is going to assemble some characters that you're really going to enjoy. And you're going to see some old characters like the Fool make an appearance and stay with us for a while. And this is really, really a highly competently made novel. First, the beast magic. And in the beast magic is Fitz's ability to communicate with and bond with his wolf, Night Eyes. And, you know, initially I was kind of off-put by it. And what I mean by that is this. The dialogue between Night Eyes and Fitz is kind of, I'm not going to say it's high level, but it's much higher level than a wolf should be able to communicate by. So, I mean, Night Eyes has the vocabulary and diction of somebody that's probably graduated high school, which is weird because you would expect that a wolf could basically communicate, if at all, with one wolf for yes and two wolves for no. And so before I get overly critical of it, I have to have an open mind and need to ask myself, well, how does this reconcile? How can a wolf have that high level of diction and vocabulary? And it's simply understood in this way. By the link between Fitz and Night Eyes, they gain common understanding. And when you have common understanding with somebody or something, you're able to communicate quite well and fully. And so that kind of explains why Night Eyes is able to have that ability. But I also appreciated that Hobb did leave it with some limitations. And the most notable limitation is Night Eyes' inability to understand abstract concepts. Revenge, for example, is a rather abstract concept. Night Eyes doesn't get that. It's like, well, either we go hunt and eat or we don't hunt and eat. He understands pack, the idea of pack, but an abstract concept is beyond him. And so I did appreciate the limitation that is put on the ability to communicate by means of beast magic. Another thing I think we can appreciate in this novel is the use of the other form of magic that appears, and it's the skill, that telepathic ability to communicate and be aware of somebody, no matter how far the distance. It allows us to essentially pop in and get a bird's eye view of everywhere in the world. And by means of that, Hobb is able to tell us what's going on with Fitz's friends that are absent from him, the girl he loves, Molly, what she's doing. We get a glimpse into what that rat bastard Prince Regal has been up to, what's happening with the depredations of the red ships. The reader is being brought in by means of this device to get a big picture view of what's going on. In fantasy literature, anytime you have a novel about a quest, they can tend to lag. In most cases, no matter what the novel or the author, you're going to run into a period of time that is just kind of slow because that's the nature of a quest. And it's because the author is trying to communicate to you, the reader, that this is a long, arduous quest. And so, unfortunately, by means of communicating that, we, the reader, get to feel the pain of it. And that means slow moving pace. And that does appear in this novel a little bit. However, usually the payoff on the quest is the conclusion, right? There's the battle of good versus evil. It's really not that simple. As a matter of fact, our nemesis in this novel, Prince Regal, or now King Regal, really makes very few appearances in this novel. Of course, his minions will have more of a role than Prince Regal himself. I mean, there has to be this element of good versus evil, but surprisingly, Regal is absent most of the time. And I find that interesting, but it made sense with how the novel ends, which, of course, I'm not going to spoil for you. But really, the highlight of this novel is not necessarily the battle of good versus evil. That does present, of course, and Hobb does really well in narrating single combat. It's gritty, it's dark, and I love that. But really, it's the themes of the novel that are the importance: duty, sacrifice, and justice. And I think with regard to duty, Hobb is really able to express the burdens that come with duty. For example, Fitz looks around him at his friends and his family members, and he sees that everybody is basically obligated. Nobody is really able to do what they want, to be whole, to be a complete person, to just seek joy, to be in love without there being a downside to being in love. Actually, this whole quest is about a sense of duty. It is about finding verity, so all the bad things that are happening can be corrected. That is duty, but he struggles with it and he resents it. And I find that to be very human. What is it about duty that could be so burdensome? It's that you can hollow yourself out of everything you desire and want in life for the pursuit of a duty, of an obligation, because it's the right thing to do. But the primary theme in this novel is the cousin of duty, and it's sacrifice. Every character in this quest is sacrificing something for the better good. And here's the thing. Sacrifice is meaningless. It's completely meaningless unless at the end of the sacrifice there is a sense of justice. Duty, sacrifice, justice. And there will be justice. So when you look at the themes, which are really important and I think enjoyable to kind of ponder a little bit, and then you look at how well the characters are crafted, and then you look at the compelling storyline, you're gonna expect kind of this grand conclusion. And there is a grand conclusion, but it's not gonna necessarily be what you expect in the novel. And I found that to be really delightful and surprising. Hobb gives us kind of an alternate theory of a novel that ends in single combat between a good guy and a bad guy. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was smart. I thought it was intelligent, and it doesn't leave you wanting more. This third novel in the trilogy does bring you full circle. And if you've read the first two, you know you're going to read it because the completionist in you is going to just demand that you read this third novel. But the good news is it's really an excellent novel. In my opinion, it's a 4.5 stars out of 5. And it's for all the reasons I've described. The storytelling itself has to be paramount, and it is. The characters are excellent. And the internal dialogue and internal struggle with concepts like duty, sacrifice, and justice are all played out excellently. And you're going to get a little humor. And hey, what's not to love about a story between a boy and his dog or wolf, right? It's kind of a complete novel. And for that reason, I recommend it to all of you. Hey, right about now, you're going to see a little circle of me as a naval officer. If you click on that, you can subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you as we build this thing. I'm also going to provide a thumbnail for a science fiction book, Operation Bounce House, that I really, really enjoyed. And I think you would too. So with that, have a great day and God bless.